Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here, and today I've got something sort of different, sort of similar to yesterday's video for you guys. Yesterday we spoke about the Warlock Legendaries that were data mined in the most recent Shadowlands Alpha build. Well, today I'm going to show you all 16 of those Legendaries firsthand in action on Shadowlands Alpha. The Event Realm build servers, I suppose, went live today on the actual Alpha servers, and all 16 were indeed available for crafting. So I'm going to start off by showing the 4 generic ones, the ones that cover all 3 Warlock specs, and then we'll get into the Affliction, Destruction, and Demonology ones. Now, I have to say, there's a decent bit of subtle little interactions that I think for the most part were missed when it came to these initially being data mined and spoiled. Some actual effects are a bit different than the tooltips say they are, so I thought it'd be best just to show you guys every single one firsthand. If you have any questions about any of the legendaries, feel free to swing by stream anytime and ask. All my week auras, profiles, and add-ons are also there available to you guys for free. Feel free to swing by anytime and ask. So let's get right into this and start off with the 4 generic Warlock legendaries. Okay, so like I said, starting off with the 4 generic Warlock Legendaries, the first one that I want to show you here is basically, it's Pillars of the Dark Portal. The equip is Demonic Gateway is now an instant cast, and your first use of Demonic Gateway does not trigger this cooldown. So they're Pillars of the Dark Portal from Legion. It's actually on a neck this time, not on a pair of pants, but the effect is essentially the same. You drop your Gateway here, instant cast, can take it. Now the cool thing here, well, the, I guess, interesting thing here is that it does give you a debuff. However, hovering over it says you faded into the nether and are faded into the nether and only able to use Demonic Gateway once more. It gives you a 2-minute debuff here. Now, THD actually pointed this out to me on stream. I think as far as, like, feedback goes, the initial debuff should be a different color. It was purple, I believe, initially in Legion the first time you took it. When you took it a second time, then it changed to green or a different color, sort of giving you like a visual indicator that, hey, you've taken it once, but you have one more charge left. That would be convenient. It'd be cool because the debuff does not actually change here between taking like the first Gateway teleport and the second. Okay, so the second legendary I want to talk to you about, the effect is called Mark of Endureth, and the equip is Drain Life, now deals damage and restores health 50% faster. So when I first saw this effect and read it, I wondered if it was just worded weirdly or if it was just truly a cast, like it made Drain Life drain faster without any kind of other effect on it. So my first thought was, well, let's cast Drain Life and see how many ticks we get baseline. So here's a Drain Life cast baseline. You can see we get 5 ticks here. 5 ticks of Drain Life. And I'll put up a Vile Taint here to separate the actual damage to show you with the Legendary on. You get 5 ticks of Drain Life without the Legendary on. When we actually put the Legendary on and look at the amount of Drain Life ticks we get, put it on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You still get 5 ticks of Drain Life. This legendary essentially just does what it says. It makes Drain Life tick 50% faster. Now, obviously, if you're playing the Inevitable Demise talent, it does hit pretty hard. It really, in PvP, I can see this hitting really hard. With a large ID stack coming into somebody, dumping a drain into them, CDs, and they probably die. The thing is, when it comes to PvE, I don't really see this legendary having many implications. It's not really a DPS gain in a sense. You're not getting any extra ticks here, so there's no real ID kind of cheesing in play. Now, I will say with this legendary equipped, casting multiple Drain Lives really drains your mana. You're burning through about 13% per drain. I don't really think there's a scenario where I'm going to spam Drain Life with this on very often, unless it's like PvP or something where I need to heal myself, but I have run out of mana here in about, what, 12 seconds or so? We're basically right now. So that's something sort of to keep in mind, but overall, not too concerned about it. This legendary as a whole, another utility legendary in a sense. The effect does sort of feel legendary, but I'm not super impressed from it from a PvE kind of perspective, damage-wise. Okay, so the third legendary that I want to talk about, the effect is called Mark of Borrowed Power. It says Malefic Rapture has a 10% chance to refund all soul shards spent. Chaos Bolt has a 5% chance, and called Dread Stalkers has a 25% chance, because this is one of the 4 generic legendaries. It changes based on the spec you're playing. This is to me, it sort of feels like just like a second soul conduit. It's cool. The effect is powerful. It's relevant, but it's also just going to be RNG. Let me actually get out of combat here and put this on. And we're going to build the 5 shards and see if we get any actual refunds here. So earlier we did this and got 0 refunds out of 5 shards spent. We're going to be about 4 here. We'll cast a Vile Taint. No refund. Rapture. There's sort of a refund there. I can't really tell if it's generation or not, but Rapture, Rapture, Rapture. There's a refund. Rapture and Rapture. So there is this utility. This legendary obviously is powerful. It's RNG. Soul Conduit's been around for a while. We know how it feels. This is basically Soul Conduit. For called Dreadstalkers, technically, for not playing the Demonic Calling trait, it'll refund 2 soul shards if it procs. And Chaos Vault will also refund 2. Rapture is the only spender technically that costs 1 that it affects, but it's there. The effect feels sort of legendary, but it doesn't really feel anywhere near, in my opinion, as good as the final generic Warlock Legendary. Alright boys, the final generic Legendary for Warlocks, 4 out of 4, is Wilfred's Sigil of Superior Summoning. The equip, every soul shard you spend reduces the cooldown of Summon Infernal by 2 seconds. Rain of Fire consumes 3 soul shards. Chaos Bolt consumes 2. Now this effect affects all 3 specs: Infernal, Dark Lair, and Demonic Tyrant. Infernal is 2 seconds. The CD reduction on Dark Lair is 1 second. And the actual CD reduction on your Demonic Tyrant is 0.3 seconds per soul shard spent. You're probably spending the most soul shards as Demonology, because Hand of Gul'dan, Dreadstalkers, you can build them pretty quickly with 1 Shadow Bolt cast. But a 0.3 second reduction per soul shard spent is not really as much as I think we need. We ended up running a few tests here, and it put, with the ring on, following a normal sequencing of Demonology, yes, we're at lower haste levels here on Alpha, it put us at about a minute 19, a minute 18-ish for our Demonic Tyrant cooldown. It was about a 10 to 12 second CD reduction on our Tyrant. It's obviously impactful because Tyrant is only a minute and a half compared to 3 for Infernal, or 3/2 for Dark Lair, depending on their Dark Caller trait. But I feel like as far as Demonology goes, to sort of mirror VOP Minor that we have on live now, it probably could be around 0.4 seconds, probably even 0.5, and get away with that pretty easily. But regardless, the spec that I'm most excited about this effect with is hands down Destruction. Let's see if we can proc some Infernals here with this ring and reduce the cooldown here. Now, there's also a very interesting bug that I want to show you guys with Summon Infernal and Reign of Chaos. So let's follow this sequencing here and see what we can do. We'll play Inferno for max soul shard refunds here. We'll play Soul Conduit. Let's do it. Let's open up on this. We're going to go 3 Immolates, then just drop our Infernal and go to town. So Immo, Infernal, Rain of Fire. Alright, let's build a few shards here. We're at 3. Rain of Fire. Any more shards coming in, boys? Anything? Anything here? Anything? I swear we have it. Okay, there's a second Infernal right there. And now our shard gen comes in faster and faster because more Infernals. Rain of Fire. There's more Rain of Fire shards. 3rd Infernal. Shards coming in like crazy now. 4th Infernal. Watch my timer here on my Infernal, though. Every proc. Watch this. Another Rain of Fire here. Another Infernal. Multiple Infernals rolling here, basically. Now, actual Rain of Chaos just expired there, right? We dumped about, I think, 6, 7 Rain of Fires there. Look at my Infernal tracker here, though. Currently, Rain of Chaos proccing an Infernal, it's a bug, resets the cooldown of Summon Infernal. So every Infernal that we procced off casting those Rain of Fires there, reset the cooldown on our Summon Infernal. So it's not just Sigil that's doing it. It's been a bug since early alpha. Well, I guess early Reign of Chaos days, which is a few builds ago. But it's there. It's been reported. We've already talked about it on stream a decent bit. But we ran the math on Wilfred Sigil. We had some better openers with Reign of Chaos and Inferno and all that spam earlier. We had our Infernal cooldown down to a minute and 12 seconds with a pretty decent opener, like with Rain of Fire spam. There were no Chaos Bolts built in there or cast there. It was just Rain of Fire spam in an AoE, like, 3-4 target setting scenario. Really just trying to build around Wilfred's and get a fast Infernal out. A minute 12 was the downtime between both Infernals, or would have been if it wasn't resetting here. The effect is very powerful. Now, I don't expect to see this kind of CD reduction in Mythic Plus because you're in between packs a decent bit, but it is pretty easy to get a 2-minute Infernal with the Wilfred Sigil effect here. And the cool thing is, 2-minute Infernal Destruction versus 3-minute Infernal Destruction is night and day. It's almost like playing two different specs. So as far as the 4 generic Warlock Legendaries go, I am hands down most excited about Wilfred's Sigil. I think Demonology could use a bit of a buff on the CD reduction, but Destro is in a good spot. Af Dark Lair is a bit odd. You have a 3-minute Dark Lair baseline. If you take the Dark Caller trait, it's 2 minutes. If you're playing Ring with that, you can probably get it to about 1:40, I guess. We didn't really test much with it because going below 2-minute Dark Lair desyncs Dark Soul, maybe puts you in like Creeping Death talent range. I don't really know. It's more like kind of Bale crafting, which is not really my thing this early in the alpha and beta and stuff. But this Ring is very powerful destruction. Very, very powerful. I'm very excited about it. Excited to see this effect back, and hopefully Demo gets more love with it. But as far as this goes, Destro, Wilfred's, a match made in heaven. Now, getting into the actual destruction-based legendaries here, the first one I want to talk about, it's an old tier set. It's called Madness of the Asjakhir, I think. Chaos Bolt increases the damage of Chaos Bolt by 10% and reduces the cast time of Chaos Bolt by 10% for 3 seconds. Remember, 10%. Okay, let's put this on. Let me take the other one off here. Let's put this on. Take it off. I promise. It's okay. We want to replace this one. Okay, here we go. So remember, 10%, right? Let's build the 4 shards here. We'll put up an ammo because why not? It's fine. Not really following a rotation here anyway. We'll con flag one more time. Chaos Bolt. Watch our buff here. That says 20%. Chaos Bolt cast time reduced by 20%. It's still a 10% damage amp, but the actual cast time duration is reduced by 20 and not 10. So the tooltip is wrong. You'll see a little bit down the line that there's more than one legendary effect where the tooltip's a bit off. I'm not really sure if this is intended or not, but I mean, there's a difference between 10 and 20. This effect is exciting. A Chaos Bolt damage amp is solid. I mean, Chaos Bolt is our hardest hitting spell. Even without Supremacy being around, it's our main soul shard spender. I like it. It sort of feels legendary-ish, but it's not as exciting as a Wilfred's, per se. The effect is strong, though, and depending on tuning things, it very well might end up seeing play. Okay, so the second best legendary I want to talk about is... I don't know how to say this effect. I didn't know how to say it in Legion. I don't know how to say it now. Odor, Shawl of Yimmerjar. It's the cloak from Legion. The Havoc cloak, basically. It's back. It's on a pair of legs now. Enemies marked by your Havoc take 15% increased damage from your single target spells. Obviously, this works in Havoc. So we're going to skip that. It works in Havoc. Great. The question in everyone's mind, does it work single target? Well, let's take a look. We'll cast 3 or 4 Incinerates here without the pants on. 918, 916, 925, and we have 905. Let's leave combat. Try and put on our pants. Try and leave combat. Put on our pants. Let's go back. One more Incinerate for the road without Havoc buff, right? Hits for 887. Havoc. Look at the debuff here, too. It actually indicates the debuff is active, right? That's a crit for about 1050. 1088. 1100, one for the road, 1166. So it does indeed work single target. Havoc has a 30-second CD on it, but keep in mind that the actual duration of Havoc was indeed extended by 2 seconds a few builds ago. So it's there. It's sort of a powerful effect. The issue that I see, though, and the issue that I feel this sort of had in Legion, too, when it came to single target settings, is that, and just later on in general, there were more powerful destruction legendaries than this. Now, obviously in Legion, once again, we were sort of in a weird spot with getting legendaries. If you got this first, it put you in a weird spot. It was there, you used it, but you really wanted like Lessons of Space Time later on, Reliquary of Souls or Reliquary, Feretory of Souls, Belt, whatever it was. There were better effects, and I think for the most part, this is probably going to be the same case with Shadowlands. So let's talk about the other 2 destruction effects that I feel are more powerful, and I think most of you guys will agree. The third effect we have for Destro here, I believe is called, let's see here, it's called Embers of the Diabolic Raiment. Incinerate now generates 100% additional soul shard fragments. So basically generates 2 soul shard fragments and an additional 1 on critical strikes. So let's put this on. It doesn't change the actual tooltip, but you'll notice here, like, I'm going to drop my Infernal and go into a relatively normal opener. Shard generation gets to be pretty insane, especially when casting Incinerates and when they crit. So cast a few Incinerates here, and you can see shards are filling relatively quickly. We're almost capped again here between Infernal generation and Incinerate value here. Launch a bolt or 2. We're just sitting at 3 shards here for the most part. There's an Incinerate hit. And if an Incinerate actually crits in the process of having an Infernal down, look at the generation here. It's pretty relevant. Like, it's almost like half a shard, half a shard, half a shard. It's relevant. It's there. Do I think this is an exceptionally powerful single target ability? Not necessarily. Obviously, it brings some value, but I think one of the areas, depending on what you're doing, where this gains value is potentially in a setting with Fire and Brimstone. Now, Fire and Brimstone, I had to think, is this a toggleable ability? No, it's not. It's a passive. So watch our shard gen here. When we go into combat with these 3 dummies here, we're not even going to put an Infernal down. We're just going to roll Immolate 3 times, drop a Rain of Fire, and just watch our shard generation here. Rain of Fire, middle target here, start casting some Incinerates. Dude, I mean, the generation here is pretty insane. It just fuels Rain of Fire, man. It just fuels more rains. With an Infernal down and Rain of Chaos rolling, we did it earlier on stream. You are just swimming in shards. If you proc the right number of Infernals, your damage is just insane. There's so much shard generation going on here. The effect is powerful, but the question is just how relevant is it going to be in Mythic Plus comparatively to a talent like Inferno in this row, which affects Rain of Fire that was buffed by 30% recently, actual Rain of Fire, and this buffs it by an additional 20%, or Cataclysm, which has been basically our go-to talent in this row due to its single target damage value, as well as the utility that it brings, applying Immolate to multiple targets. I like it. The shard generation is great. However, there's one more effect for Destro that I think is a bit more powerful, and my favorite so far outside of Wilfred's, that is. Okay, so the final ability that I've hyped up for Destro here. Cinders of the asjakhir. This is a very interesting legendary. Conflict rate has 1 additional charge and has its recharge time reduced by 3 seconds. Conflict, 2 charges, 12-second recharge time. Put the cloak on, 3 charges, 9-second recharge time, depending on haste. This is exceptionally powerful with the overhaul that Roaring Blaze has got, because Conflag increases your fire damage to the target by 30% for 6 seconds. Having 3 charges is very strong. Having a reduced CD in 3 charges is even more powerful. There's already been talk in a sense about like a fire-based build for Destro, playing like maybe Soulfire, Internal Combustion, Cataclysm, even though it's sort of like Shadow Flame damage. Channel Demon Fire, which launches like fire bolts, embers, whatever they call them. Just in general. Because outside of Chaos Bolt and I think one other spell, I can't remember what it is, your spells are fire spells, you know. Chaos Bolt is technically a fire spell, but it's labeled as chaos damage and not fire damage, so it's not affected by Roaring Blaze. But regardless, getting into combat here, just looking at the actual sequencing, watch how easy it is to pretty much like just maintain a high uptime on Roaring Blaze here. Infernal, Cataclysm Infernal, that's the Roaring Blaze tracker right there, right? Conflict rate, damage taken increased by 30, Chaos Bolt, Incinerate, Conflag. Just start casting. I found that like it's pretty easy to even just weave in random fire-based spells and weave actual Chaos Bolts in when Backdraft is down. Fire spell. Conflag again, we're at 4 shards. We have a charge of Backdraft or Conflag left here. It's still up, active, we're dumping bolts. We can just keep weaving. It's pretty easy to maintain uptime here. And we're getting a bit in danger here for like overcapping or undercapping, not having off CD. Launch a bolt. Alright, cool. It's back up. There you go. And we're back on a charge again. It's pretty easy to maintain a very high Roaring Blaze uptime here without even really trying. On a level 60 template character with this effect, at higher levels of haste, when you have, you know, a 8-7 second recharge time here, it's actually at 7.9 there due to a haste proc or something like that. It's insane. I think maintaining a high Roaring Blaze uptime is going to be very, very easy with this legendary, and I think outside of Wilfred Sigil, this is really impactful. Even when it comes to a Havoc base setting, we are at, what, 9% haste right now. Playing, you know, obviously Roaring Blaze, Flash over Entropy for a bit of extra haste here. we can go actually into a double MO here. Put up our Havoc, Conflag, launch Bolt, Conflag, Bolt, Conflag, and we should be able to get another Bolt off here. There you go. That's triple Bolt, triple Conflag. Now, obviously, sequencing can be different. You might want to min-max more around, like, Incinerate cast because of Roaring Blaze being active there. But at 9% haste, having those 3 Conflags, you're still getting 6 cast off there and 3 Chaos Bolts in that window. It's pretty impactful. And that extra Conflag for that shard generation in that Havoc window, also with Havoc being extended by 2 seconds in a recent build, gives you time for that 3rd Chaos Bolt. This effect is powerful. I think outside of Wilfred's, this is probably the most impactful one. I'm very excited about this legendary, but I guess we're going to have to see what I like more, whether it's Wilfred's or this, or another one, depending on tuning. Obviously, this is early alpha, but I am very, very, very impressed with Cinders of the asjakhir. 3 Conflags is legit, and the playstyle is honestly just a lot of fun. All right, now we had our fun with Destruction. Let's talk some Demonology here, because there's been a lot of questions about Demonology recently. One being, hey, what is the actual cast time? First of all, hold on. Let me get my Felguard out. All right. One of them being, hey, did they end up messing with the actual travel time on Axe Toss? I'm going to be real with you. We streamed for 10 hours today. I have no idea. I forgot to test it. Let's check right now. Throw your axe at this mob. Well, he charged, so I couldn't really tell. We'll look at it in a second here. But Demonology Legendaries. So there are a few here. Now, I'm going to start off with the Implosive Potential Helm. This one, I think, is sort of the most controversial in a sense. I can't really tell if I'm underplaying or overplaying this helm. So, the equip is when Implosion deals damage to at least 3 targets, you gain 5% haste for 8 seconds for each imp imploded. That is similar to EP, but also very, very, very different to EP from what we have on live for now. This sort of feels like the fixed version of Explosive Potential. I feel like this is what they were going for with Explosive Potential on live, but they just sort of, it became a single target spender and, well, yeah. Regardless, so the difference is here. Your implosion has to hit 3 targets. If you implode single target, or if you implode on 2 mobs, it does nothing. It will not proc. The difference here as well is that it is not a set amount of haste whenever it hits 3 targets. It is based off however many imps hit those targets. So technically, you can get a pretty high haste value here if you set up a massive implosion, which we'll do in a second. The other difference, this legendary, the buff, lasts 8 seconds. This does not last 15 seconds like our EP on live does. That's a big deal because there's not a whole lot you can really do when it comes to, like, okay, maybe imploding a pack last second before you go into a boss, carry over that EP into a tyrant setup and go from there. I'm struggling to try and think and realize how you can really cheese with this in a sense. In Mythic Plus, when you're on trash packs, this is going to be a very, very valuable legendary. But when you reach the boss, if it's a single target boss or a 2 target boss or one where you can't get implosion value, unless you pull a trash onto that boss, you're literally wearing a dead legendary and you only can wear 1 right now. So I'm not crazy about this legendary. I think people, like, it'll be, when it's good, it's going to be really, really good. But when it's bad, it's going to be bad. It sort of reminds me of, like, how BOP Major was in Eternal Palace for Warlocks as demo. Like, you had really good procs. You were either way ahead of their DPS or you didn't do any damage because you're playing with a dead Major Essence. You're playing with a dead Legendary. But regardless, by the way, let's check Axe Toss one more time. Throw your axe over here. How fast is this travel time? Let's see. Sit still. Throw your axe. Okay, well, I left the charge on and turned off Fellstorm. We'll look at it later. But anyways, so let's do this here, right? So we're going to head in here, and let's just implode. Let's put this on. It pretty much is what it is. You toss it on, imp spawn. Imp spawn much faster now in alpha, by the way. You implode. There's your buff. 15%, right? There's a way you can sort of set up a pretty large implosion here. My pet's on passive, it's fine. There's a way you can set up a pretty large implosion here. So if you don't know yet, demonic consumption has changed. You no longer consume all your imps when your tyrant is summoned. It just drains life instead. So now, I'm not sure optimal sequencing here or whatever. I'll implode. We'll set up a tyrant like we do on live normally. Hand, bolt, hand, bolt, hand. Go into a tyrant. Extend all the imps. Tyrant. 5 shards. There's Baleful. There's Baleful. Shadow bolt. Hand. Shadow bolt. Hand, whatever. Implode. 75% bonus haste. We're at 94% haste on a blue template character in Shadowlands. This literally feels like haste on live with explosive potential. Oh, but I imploded again, and now it overwrote the buff. So it does not go past 8 seconds. I'm sure you can probably get to higher levels of haste depending on refunds and things there, sequencing, but yeah. So the buff, if you implode with a higher percentage up, it'll just override it and give you whatever percent you imploded with, right? Whether it's a greater one or a lower one, it will override it. There's no stacking, nothing weird there. The duration is 8 seconds. It will not go any higher than that, and it'll just reset to 8 every time. So, like I said, let's try Axe Toss for a third time here. I'm sort of on the fence about this. I like the ability, but it just really makes me wonder. No, they did not increase the cast time of Axe Toss, by the way. Third time's a charm. I like it, but I just think to myself, pulling a single target boss, this is going to be a dead legendary. But it is extremely powerful, especially with your tyrant, depending on sequencing, when you can set it up in Mythic Plus or AoE based scenarios. So I'm gonna say, for me, I'm gonna reserve judgment. The jury's still out. We'll figure it out when we get there. Okay, second demonology legendary, we have these bracers. This effect here. It says each soul shard spent on Hand of Gul'dan increases the damage of your next call Dreadstalkers by 3%. All right, cool. Let's put it on. We'll go hit these things. So why not? So we start casting Hand of Gul'dans, and my first reaction was, wait, there's no way to track this. I don't have a buff here. I feel like I should have a buff, right? Because they're equipped. They're on their Hand of Gul'dan. We have no buff here. So I'm wondering, is there a way to track this, or are they just not working, right? So I said, okay, let's cast Call of Dreadstalkers. We'll do one more Hand of Gul'dan cast here. Dreadstalkers, right? They jump out, they bite the target for 1,000. If you click on the Dreadstalker, it has the buff. Damage dealt increased by 27%. So as far as like feedback goes, if any devs or anything are watching this, we need some way to track the actual like bonus damage our dogs are getting. Now, I did also experiment a bit with holding my dogs for like 5 minutes and casting a million Hand of Gul'dans to see if there's like a limit to the actual damage bonus they can get. It caps at 90%. They can't go past that. So believe me, it was about a 800 buff, I'm pretty sure, when I cast them at that point, or should have been, but it seemed to cap at 90. So there's that. This legendary feels okay. It's fine. It doesn't really feel legendary to me. It's sort of like it's a passive effect. Like, we're gonna mostly cast our dogs on CD, especially now due to like demonic consumption being different. It just feels sort of not as legendary as others. It's not as impactful or as exciting as like the Implosion one or the Wilfred's ring, obviously, but it's there. It's a damage amp. It's impactful. It was a tier bonus, and it was initially a tier bonus, I believe, and it's sort of, yeah, this was the actual Antorus one, I'm pretty sure, and it feels like it should be a tier bonus or an effect on like, you know, a bonus set somewhere. It doesn't really feel legendary, but regardless, feedback wise, what I'd say, if this stays around, we need to have some kind of way to probably track the actual buff. Obviously, a weak ore can be made, but it feels like something that... It feels like Reign of Chaos. You have a tracker for Reign of Chaos duration. We probably should have a way to track the actual like damage bonus that we're getting to our actual dogs. And besides having it actually active on the dogs when you cast them. Besides that, it does what it says. You know, it's pretty much what it is. You know, it's a buff to our dogs' damage. So, yeah. Third legendary for Demonology. We have this. It is called Bale Spider's Burning Core. Shadow Bolt increases the damage of your next Demon Bolt by 25%, stacking up to 4 times, with a bit of an error in the text there. So I am playing Power Siphon right now because I said, let's see if the damage stacks with Power Siphon. Do I have it on my bars? I think I do, but I'll put it there. So basically here, we'll pop it on. And you can indeed track the damage on this. You'll see it's a buff here. 1, 2... 3, and 4. It stacks to 4. There's no like error here. It doesn't exceed 4 stacks. It's basically is what it is. We'll launch a Demon Bolt here. It consumes a stack. How hard is the bolt going to hit for? It hits for 1700, right? We'll stack the 4 stacks again. Actually cast a Hand of Gul'dan to enable Power Siphon. And we'll go Shadow Bolt, Shadow Bolt. We're at 4 stacks here. We'll Power Siphon. Power Siphon. Demon Bolt damage increased by 30%. 130%. Hit for 2200 there. So the damage effect is there. It's real. I'm actually sort of wondering what our go-to talent is going to be in this road. Doom is not really very impactful in Mythic Plus in a lot of settings, right? Depending on tuning, barring it being really overpowered, I don't see us playing that. I could be wrong, though. Power Siphon, it was changed. We don't have the 30% damage amp on live right now. It needed a change if it was going to stay around, and that could very well be enough. I'm not really sure. Demonic Calling has some anti-synergy with certain legendaries. Now, we're only limited to 1 right now, but if we're able to wear 2 at some point, there's anti-synergy here. 1 with the shard refund one, because you're not spending any shards in the first place. You probably aren't getting any refunded to you. And there's a few other spots of anti-synergy with Demonic Calling that I've seen through Shadowlands 2, and unfortunately I can't really remember what they are right now. But if Power Siphon is real, it could be a thing. But once again, this legendary feels okay. It doesn't feel amazing. It feels fine. It feels more like a tier bonus, which, you know, it actually wasn't. I think it's from Torghast, but it feels impactful. It feels a bit more relevant than the actual Grim Inquisitor's Dread Calling trait, which we looked at a second ago, the Dreadstalker buff. It's cool, and it has some, I guess, sort of cool stacking damage interactions with Power Siphon. So, the final Demonology Legendary, I sort of feel I saved the best, if not like the coolest, second coolest one for last. This one is called Forces of the Horned Nightmare. Hand of Gul'dan has a 15% chance to cast a second time on your target for free. So when I saw this, and a lot of people saw this and read it, there's a lot of questions. Number 1, does it have the same impact damage as Hand of Gul'dan, the first one you cast? Number 2, how many imps spawn out of it? Is it based off of how many shards you put into the other Hand of Gul'dan? Or is it 3, 2, 1 regardless? What is it? Let's put it on. Let's see how long it takes to proc it. I've had some pretty good luck with it, but I'm sure I'm recording this now. Probably not going to proc. Let's see. Hand of Gul'dan, 3 shards. Bam. No proc. 3 imps right there. Let me get rid of my pet so you can see a little better here, actually. Get rid of this clown. So we'll go 3 shard Hand of Gul'dans here every time to see sequencing. And if it procs, you'll see extra imps pop out. There you go. 6 imps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if you look, you can rewind the video. It does indeed have the same impact damage as the first Hand of Gul'dan. The weird thing is, I can't see any kind of visual cue for it. I am pretty sure it just has like a second damage event for impact damage. Right there. You can see the actual damage stacking again. We spawn 3 more here with that hand cast. But there's no second visual. It might just proc at like the same millisecond you cast your hand. Maybe they're stacked there, but I think it should show some kind of visual cue, like maybe the hand is a bit delayed. I'm sure they can work something out. You know, it might just not be showing, it might be a bug, but regardless. So the question of how many shards, if you put 2 shards into it, if you put 1 shard into it, how many imps do you get back? Well, didn't proc there. Let's put 1 more shard in here again. 1 shard. 1 shard Hand of Gul'dans. Was that 2 imps? That was 1. Okay, I'll tell you for myself. I'll tell you. You get X imps. If you put 1 shard into a Hand of Gul'dan, which you'll never really do, right there. See? There. See, we have 4 active, but 2 spawn there. 1 will despawn in a second here. Watch this. 1's going to fade away about now. There it is. And there's the 2 we spawned from that 1 shard Hand of Gul'dan. You get however many imps you put in shard, like however many shards you put into the 1 Hand of Gul'dan, you get that many imps back. If it's 3, you get 3. If it's 2, you get 2. 1, you get 1, etc. Splash damage is there. So obviously this can be a DPS increase in Mythic Plus, single target AoE, extra impact damage from Hand of Gul'dan is relevant. It also has some merit with Demonic Consumption. It sort of feels like a Demonic Meteor kind of trait. A Soul Conduit meets Demonic Meteor kind of trait. Legendary, I guess. It's solid. You know, now that Demonic Consumption is not based off of just imp energy, but actual pet health, spawning more pets, a bit more RNG, it's there. I like it. As a whole, though, looking at all the actual Demonology Legendaries, I have to say, I think they're a bit weaker, a decent bit weaker than the Destruction choices we have here. Wilfred's is insane for Destro. The Conflag Charge one is pretty solid, and even like the actual shard generation one's pretty decent, and these aren't terrible either. Demo's sort of limited when it comes to them, though. They're all sort of like based around Demo's toolkit, which makes sense, but it's like stacked, cleave, single target stuff, you know? Implosion hitting 3 targets. It's either really good or dead. A damage amp to Dread Stalkers, a damage amp to Demon Bolt, and Hand of Gul'dan, stack, cleave, splash damage, more imps. They're impactful, they're cool, but I don't think they're as strong as the destruction ones, nor do I think the Wilfred's effect is as strong as it is for destruction, for demonology. Okay. We saved Affliction for last here. So there are 4 Affliction Legendaries, obviously. I think the Affliction Legendaries are impressive. I have to admit, I think there are 1 or 2 things as far as Affliction's toolkit goes that could still be changed in Shadowlands. I am really excited for Affliction in Shadowlands. Like, holy cow. So the first one here we have is called Perpetual Agony of asjakhir, I suppose. Agony has a 20% chance, increased chance, to generate a soul shard. It's cool. It's extra shard gen, which feeds more raptures, feeds, I guess, more Seed of Corruption cast, depending on what you're doing. It's helpful, I suppose. In the end, throughput-wise, it's going to be a DPS increase. I don't think it's insanely impactful. This one sort of feels a bit, once again, like, sort of like, you know, a tier bonus. It doesn't really necessarily feel like super legendary to me. It's there, it's cool, but I don't really think it's going to be like your best choice when it comes to AoE or utility or really even single target, barring it ending up being pretty overpowered. So let's get to the last 3 here, because the last 3 are pretty insane. Okay, I'll be real with you. I don't really know which one to talk about next because they're all awesome. I guess we just start with this one here. This effect is called Malefic Wrath. Equip Malefic Rapture increases the damage of your Drain Soul by 25% for 8 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. So I have Drain Soul as my talent right now in the first row here. If I had ID, it would change to Shadow Bolt. So there you go. It changes. So I'm going to do a normal opener here, right? Let's just do this. I don't have my pet out. It's fine. It doesn't matter. So we'll apply our dots to everything. Here we go. I'm going to get my Vile Taint up, my 1 UA, which lasts 21 seconds, and go into my Dark Glare. There he is. Rapture. 1 stack, 2 stack, 3 stack. 1 for the road, and we drain, basically, right? Drain soul damage increased by 75%. Now, if I refresh by casting another Rapture there, it indeed stays at 3 stacks. It does not go past the actual 7 or 8 second duration that it has, but it's there. It's still something. Basically, you're going to be casting Rapture throughout the course of your rotation, depending on how many you cast in a row, depends on the setting, how many shards you have, all of that. This sort of seems like a passive kind of throughput damage-based legendary. Depending on what's going on, I don't know if like juggling or like trying to maintain 3 stacks of Rapture obviously is probably going to be a thing within reason, right? I'm not going to probably go out of my way to do it, but a 75% damage increase to Drain Soul is relevant. But where it gets really powerful is when you actually get into Execute. Because don't forget, Drain Soul deals 100% increased damage against enemies below 20% health. Well, let's separate my combat log here, wait for my dots to drop a bit, wait to get to more shards here, and let me show you how much damage at 3 stacks this is actually dealing. We also have Shadow's Embrace here, by the way, which is stacked by Drain Soul. So, okay, we're going to put up our Agony here for a bit of shard gen, also to cast our Raptures. Rapture 1, 2, 3 stacks, Drain. 633. We're not in Execute. So basically, it'll probably be hitting for about that right there, about 1250, give or take a bit, right? So if we're in Execute and that crits, it's hitting for about 2500 damage in Execute. But if you factor in Decimating Bolt, which is the Maldraxxus Covenant ability that buffs Drain Soul's damage by 200 to 400%, each individual tick, depending on crits and non-crits, is probably going to be hitting anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000, 12,000 DPS or so. And this is on a template character with blue gear right now. Obviously, Decimating Bolt is on a CD, and you're not going to be able to maintain 3 stacks of Rapture through Execute, but when Decimating Bolt's coming back up, you're probably going to want to have a few shards banged. This is an insanely hard-hitting spell with Bolt and 3 stacks of Rapture, whatever here. This is really impactful. It's going to give even honestly more of an execute, you know. There was already talk about Drain Soul and Decimating Bolt being powerful. With this legendary mixed in, it's going to hit pretty hard. I'm excited about it. Number 3 for Affliction. I don't even know what effect to have on which piece here. Let's just go down the line to the legs. Perfect. This is perfect. So, boys, if you played in Legion, raise your hand if you played in Legion. Sacrolash's Dark Strike, the Corruption Ring. This is basically that. Corruption damage increased by 15%, and any target affected by a corruption also has their movement speed slowed by 15%. In Legion, it was 60%, which enabled some pretty crazy kiting in Mythic Plus. It was an insane amount of utility for trash in Mythic Plus. It was very, very strong. It's one of many reasons, why Warlock was a solid choice in Legion for Plus. So, obviously, there is the obvious synergy here with Absolute Corruption, a further damage increase to Corruption. I will say, I tested this earlier. Neither the actual effect or Absolute Corruption increases the impact initial cast damage of Corruption. Remember, they changed that a few builds ago, similar to how Shadow Word Pain is. Corruption now has initial application damage only when you cast Corruption. Seed of Corruption popping does not cause that initial impact damage to happen. But either way, AC and this effect do not buff that. However, they do stack and they do buff, Corruption by a good bit when it's active. So it's a bit hard to show here. I can't really kite a mob, but let's put Corruption up. Legendary's on, right? There's the debuff. Oh, wait. It says movement speed slowed by 60 and not 15. Huh. Oh, we're literally back in Legion. So chances are high here, this effect, it was probably data mined correctly, 15%, and the actual effect has not been updated in game. Now, obviously, I would prefer this to be 60% and not 15. I think 60 is a bit it's strong, obviously. I don't know how relevant it'll be with a 15% slow. Probably not. It won't be as relevant. It just depends on a few things. How hard kiting is with a 15% slow. It does stack. With Vile Taint, movement speed slow, and you do have Curse of Exhaustion as well. So there is still options. Obviously, we have a lot of slowing utility in Plus. But if it's meant to be 60%, boys, we're back. So playing this with AC gives you a lot of bonus damage anyways, and having Absolute Corruption, making Corruption permanent in Plus, frees up a lot of GCDs for casting Raptures, Vile Taints, Drain Souls, setting up more Dark Layers, but at the same time, playing AC in Mythic Plus also means you have one less dot, because you're not playing Siphon Life, for less Rapture damage. But let's be real here. We can make jokes about UA being hard to manage on more targets, but trying to juggle Siphon Life, Corruption, Agony, 1 UA, Vile Taint, filling with Raptures, Drain Soul, I don't think Siphon Life is going to be the play anyway. So this is a solid legendary. I'm really excited for this. And hopefully, I think 15% probably a little slow. Probably a little low. I would like to see 30-ish% for a slow. But hey, honestly, I'm okay with 62. It's pretty good. Last but not least, we have the legendary that I am probably most excited for. It rivals Wilfred's Sigil. We have Wrath of Consumption. I have to say, I never thought I would see the day where Wrath of Consumption is back in game. This is an iconic ability from Legion as well. Targets that die with your agony applied to them grant you Wrath of Consumption, increasing all periodic damage dealt by 5% for 20 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. I can't really show it at this dummy because I can't really kill mobs here, but basically this stacks to a 25% damage amp, and it lasts 20 seconds. Every single mob that dies obviously refreshes the duration. If you have 1 mob dead with a 5% damage amp and 4 die within a second of each other, it's going to 25% for a 20-second duration. It's very strong. This was one of the reasons, one of many reasons why AF was strong in Legion in Mythic Plus, very strong. And not even just Mythic Plus, in raiding as well. There were plenty of fights that had ads present on them. Tichondrius, Croesus, a lot of them that had ads present where you could maintain high Wrath of Consumption uptime that you could refresh at max stacks with. This is very, very powerful. A 25% damage amp to all your dots is really strong, especially Mythic Plus, Whether you're able to leave one pack at 4 or 5 stacks and head into another one and kill a mob fast enough to refresh or not. One of the things that AF suffers with in Mythic Plus is glacially slow ramp up time. Your damage ramps up slowly over time. And Malefic Rapture does a lot to actually sort of bridge that gap, right? You know, you get your dots rolling versus like a class, I don't know, a Demon Hunter, for example. Probably not a great example. But coming in, I-beam, big AoE, whatever. You're more of a slower ramp-up kind of spec, but Rapture does a lot to shore up that damage, because when you get rolling with your dots, which happens in higher keys, right? I mean, if you're in a +3 or whatever, like, mobs are going to die, but you're not doing anything relevant in there anyways. In a higher setting, where you can get your agony, your corruption, your vile taint rolling, all that, and start spamming Rapture, you make up a lot of ground. If you can go into a pack with a 25% damage amp to your dots, they're going to be hitting hard regardless. And if you can kill a mob fast enough to refresh that, you're going to crush. Wrath of Consumption is insane. This ability is really, really strong. I never thought I'd see this back. This is up there with the likes of like Soul Burn, Soul Swap, Soul Flame. I didn't think we'd ever see this back. I'm extremely happy for this. The question, though, out of these 4 Affliction Legendaries is what do you want to play? This is pretty solid damage, Mythic Plus, and rating. This is a lot of utility in Mythic Plus, depending on how high the slow is, and also, I mean, just having Corruption's damage increased is solid, too. This is good, and this is pretty solid with Drain Soul Execute. And honestly, a buff to Drain Soul's damage in the first place, and this is probably not as impactful. But 3 out of 4 legendaries being a hit here, man. I think AF, out of all 3 specs, even taking into consideration this row with the generic ones, I think, in my opinion, AF got the best deal here. But once again, it's important to keep in mind, this is alpha. Tuning will still happen. But, man, I think Warlock is in a pretty good spot so far heading into Shadowlands with these new effects coming in. Well, there you have it, boys. There is the 16 legendaries that were, I guess, unveiled yesterday, today, or so, in Shadowlands Alpha. Now, it took me a while to actually get all these crafted today on stream, so we weren't really able to actually get into any dungeons and play with them today, but that is the plan for tomorrow on stream, and hopefully, as long as things go according to plan, I will have those videos up on YouTube within a few days. If you want to swing by stream anytime and watch them live, feel free to do so. I have a link placed at the bottom of this video here, but like I said, I'm impressed. I really am impressed. Destruction got Wilfred's, which is basically 2-minute Infernal, and let's be real here, with big Rain of Fire spam, you're probably looking at less than a 2-minute Infernal, and with Rain of Chaos being a thing, that is incredibly impactful. Affliction got some insane legendaries, Wrath of Consumption, Slow Ring, a huge Execute on Drain Soul. Destruction got triple Conflag with reduced CD, CD reduction or cast time reduction to Chaos Bolt, Insane Shard, Gen with Fire and Brimstone, and Demo got some things, but I mean, listen, as much as I love Demonology, that's just the running meme at this point. It got some things. Horned Nightmare can be good. The Implosion Helm, like I said, I can't tell if I'm underplaying it or overplaying it. Let me know, first of all, let me know what you guys think of every legendary, just what your favorite one is in the comment section below, and let me know what you guys think about the Implosion Helm. I really can't decide. I mean, like I said, it's either going to be really good or it's going to be useless. You're going to be wearing a really good legendary, maybe one of the best in the game of Mythic Plus, or you're going to be wearing no legendary, and it's going to happen a lot on both ends in Mythic Plus. So I guess the jury's still out, but we'll figure it out. Once again, boys, any weak auras, profiles, add-ons you've seen here, or any questions, feel free to swing by my Twitch anytime. Grab them, drop a follow, hang out. Thank you for watching the video, guys. Once again, any questions as well, drop them in the comment section. Let me know. I'll be sure to get back to you. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to smash the subscribe button below. Helps out a lot. And I will see you guys all again soon. Peace.